Edward Enninful, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What drives you?
What drives me? Oh my God, I love, the idea of just as simple as this, an inclusive world. A world where people see themselves reflected. Because I was supposed to be invisible by all accounts. I was supposed to not be where I am. I was supposed to have disappeared a long time ago. And every turn in my life was about visibility. Yes, I will be this person who's not supposed to be here. Yes, I will fight through the hard times. Yes, I won't give up. And even though I was the token black editor in the industry in the 90s, I knew even then that I needed to bring people up with me. I needed to bring other people up with me. And so that's really been a part of, maybe it was growing up in a family of 6, I don't know.
When you run a team, how do you instill that work ethic, that kind of answering emails at all time?
Yeah, I think you set an example, if you're an editor who leaves and has lunches and is never in the office, you don't really sort of instill faith. My team know that, we're on a mission. We have to reflect the world we live in. We have to, reflect, the beauty of multiculturalism. We have to reflect, the beauty in diversity and inclusivity. So everybody takes it really seriously. And we really have intense conversations about the zeitgeist and the world. And so, I'm very lucky to have a team who are as passionate. And, I can call my team, I can call somebody at 6 a.m. or they can call me at 6 a.m. and I'll pick up and they'll pick up. So, we have something very special that we've built over the past sort of 5 years.
But there were difficult moments, right? I think the first time, one of your first issues, you thought that you could have been fired for it.
Oh,
is that right?
I lived in America. I lived in America for a bit and I was working for W magazine and there was talk of Brexit, and of course Americans were like, your country's really, xenophobic. So, I came back and I thought, I'm going to be welcomed with open arms and they're going to love me. And oh my God, literally baptism by fire. But I remember thinking, I wanted to create a magazine where every woman could see themselves. Where every woman, regardless of their background, regardless of their age, could just literally see themselves. And at the time, now it looks like it's the norm when you look at other magazines. But in 2017, that was a radical idea. But I also remember thinking, with my background, I've lost so much and gained so much that I thought if I'm fired, I'd rather be fired for what I believed in. I'd rather be fired for creating a magazine that reflected the world as it was than try to sort of create a second-rate version of someone's vision.
And that continues. There's this idea of always pushing forward.
Yeah.
Right? What's the end? How do you measure success?
How do I measure success? Definitely not financial. I think it's more about, for me, when I'm really exhausted, when I'm really tired, when I'm really questioning if I can go on, I walk on the street and I see a little girl, a little black girl who's seen the magazine and it's the norm for them, or a curvy woman on a train to Paris who's like, thank you for, seeing me, that makes it worthwhile. That for me is success. And anybody who knows or has known me for a while will witness that for me is success. My job is done when that happens.
They say that the fashion industry is changing. You're changing it. Are others around you changing it?
Now, you look at other magazines and seeing real women in there, it's no longer a radical act. Seeing, people of color, women of color on covers is no longer a radical act. So it's being normal, it's been normalized. And for me, I'm quite happy when I see that. When you put Dame Judi Dench on the cover, and she's 85 years old, and the world just loved it. Nobody questioned her, should she be on the cover? Or you put, a girl with a hijab on the cover, and it's not a problem. That for me shows that, we're advancing, we're progressing. So, progress for me is very important.
Which is important. And so how do you take care of your team? How do you build a team around you?
My team, somebody said to me once, when you build a team, make sure you employ people you like. People, when you see them working towards your office, you're just so excited to see. That was it. Being good at your job and sort of a connection, and being excited to see, you know, team members, because you're only as good as your team. You know, no man is an island. You know, I don't create the magazine on my own. And so it's great to have a team who you respect and whose views you respect, you know, and who respect yours.
How do you think you're seen by your team? Do you have to be fearful? Do you have to be authoritarian?
I'm a worker. I work very hard, but I think I'm pretty open. You can have conversations with me. You know, ultimately the final decision rests with me, but I do listen. I like conversation. I like interaction, and so that's how. I hope they think I'm a good boss, and that's, you know, really all you can hope for, because, you know, they work on a very good magazine. They can get other jobs anywhere. So the fact that they're there makes me think that they must be happy.
Edward, how do you see the publishing world changing? So people buy less magazines. You've been doing pretty well in terms of selling more. But in 5 years, how does it look? How does it look?
I mean, I was like, you know, 5 years ago, let's go back to ID. When I was 18, you know, I inherited a magazine, you know, which would come out, was all about club kids, and you had to be out there, and the only way you could see street fashion was through ID. And then 2017, I inherited a magazine, but now I oversee a brand. You know, the magazine is still there. The magazine is still the highest of the high, the best paper, you know, the best photographers, the best, you know, cultural messages. But at the moment, you know, when you manage a brand, it's not just about that. It's about digital, it's about video, it's about audio, it's about events. So for somebody who's so forward-looking, it's so great for me. And people always ask, oh, our magazine's dead. When we launch a cover, Instagram is our cover, essentially. So we found a way of sort of making it work hand in hand, and it's so great for me, you know. I think had I just been doing the magazine, I probably would have been bored.
Yeah. So magazines aren't dead. Are they going to
but they're going to work in hand with digital platforms, you know. But also, I'll tell you something, new readers of Vogue, young readers, don't necessarily come to us through the newsstands. They come through the, you know, digital platforms, or, you know, audio or videos we put out. So, yes, now it's increased tenfold. So, yeah.
Do you think that will change the kind of readership that you will court, the either age of your readers, but also where they come from?
Yes, I mean, at the moment, you know, I think the readership is getting younger because of, you know, the whole digital landscape, and I hope that as we move forward, it kind of, we have new readers, and we also keep our loyal readers, you know.
Edward, do you think there's ever a time where actually we won't have print magazines anymore?
No, I think print will always exist sort of alongside digital, but it'll probably be something more precious, sort of better paper, something more collectible that you want to keep in your house, almost like artwork. So no, I don't think print is going to die.
So fewer copies.
Fewer copies, but more quality, better quality, you know.
Almost like a book.
Coffee table book.
I love that.
I know, me too.
What will be your biggest challenge to grow the brand in the next 5 years?
Biggest challenge, to still keep it relevant. You know, we have such great digital traffic, you know, almost 6 million every month to British Vogue. But I'm really sort of excited about overseeing the European Vogues as well, Spain, Italy, Germany and France, and sort of mentoring a whole new generation of editors, you know. When there was this whole amalgamation, the whole world thought there was a global view that was going to dominate, but it's very much about local conversations as well as global conversations. So I learned from these content leads, and I hope that, you know, they also learn. So the local, global conversation, I'm very excited about moving into the future.
Do you think it changes if we're in a recessionary environment? So you have such a, you know, glamorous lifestyle, or what you sell is so glamorous. Is it impacted by the cost of living or inflation of what we can live through?
I mean, you know, I remember a few years ago, I put Taylor Swift on the cover, and the byline was buy better, buy less. And it was a radical concept at the time. But now we all talk about sustainability. We know we can't keep shopping every day. We know we have to buy things that last, things that help the planet, things that we can pass on to sort of other generations. So I think that really is a conversation that the fashion industry is having right now that I find so exciting. And it's going to be sort of, people are going to have less money, so they have to buy things that last. And I'm really excited.
And these are real changes. It's not just real changes.
It's not just conversation. It's actually happening.
Do you think fashion brands always need to have a political point of view when there are great injustices?
I think fashion brands can do more. I feel that having black models in your show or having, a feed on your Instagram post, it's not enough. We need diverse voices behind the scenes. I always say, and I talk to sort of all the CEOs I know, we need to employ more people from diverse backgrounds, because that's the only way you can even reach out to more people, A variety of voices is always better than just one. And I always also say, let's not just have interns, let's have people on all different levels. And that's what I keep talking to people about.
Edward, we actually have one of the diverse cabinets here in the UK with Liz Truss. Is that important to you?
It is so important. As somebody who came from another country and was sort of welcomed by the UK, it's very important to have a diverse cabinet. That's how change happens. Going back to what we discussed before, that's how you understand people who are on the periphery or who've been othered. Yeah. It's so important to have a diverse cabinet.
But this, you think, in terms of policies and what they can bring to the table, or just also seeing on TV a diverse cabinet?
I hope they can have an effect on policy. I hope they can have an effect on the parties themselves, as well as policy. For me, it's about policy that makes people's lives better.
You have a memoir out.
Yeah.
Why put it down on paper?
Something about when you turn 50. Something about when it's your fifth year at Vogue. I got married this year. I'm normally not someone who looks back all the time, but it felt like the right time for me to do that. And also, I just felt that a lot of young people sort of see people like you and I, and they think, we just got here and we were always here. And for me, it was really important to share the story of a journey about, successes and failures, and that's the reason why I got here. So I just wanted to share that story with sort of young people, as well as people who feel like they're on the outskirts of outside the industry, really.
Do you feel like an outsider?
I think I'll always feel like an outsider, but as I said before, I grew up African in an African household in England. Different languages, different foods, and I now go to school and I'll be in England. So I've always been about duality. I've always seen myself as an outsider, but also an insider. And even when, I took the job at British Vogue, I was the black, gay, working class outsider, but, I'd been in the industry since I was 18. So I was, in essence, an insider. So that really is about the duality that plays out in my life.
Well, who do you think made you the person you are today? I know you left home twice, right? Ghana, but also you had to leave your home.
Yes. The person who made me who I am really is my mother. I loved my mother. She taught me about sort of beauty. She taught me about clothes, she taught me about fashion. She also taught me that beauty came in all forms, that, women were beautiful no matter what shape they were, no matter what color, what religion, and so that really stayed with me. And I guess that my creativity comes from her. And of course, I also had a military father, so the idea of precision and organization and sort of thinking ahead also comes from him. So the best of both worlds.
How did your father, I know you had a difficult relationship with your father, how did your father shape the person you are today?
It's so funny you should ask this question, because I never thought I was like my father growing up. I was very shy, very sensitive, a little spacey. I prefer the company of women to men. My dad was sort of, authoritarian, disciplinarian. You had to, be home a certain time. He ruled with an iron fist. Yeah. And I thought, I'm never going to be like him. He kicked me out of the house, when I was 18. But I found out that over the years, when it comes to work and discipline and sort of organization, that is him to a T.
So at some point you lose your eyesight. What was that like?
Yes. Basically, I have sort of very high myopia, so I've never had great eyesight. And I went through a series of sort of retinal detachments, 4 to be exact. And with each detachment, I would sort of have to end up looking down in a contraption for about 3 weeks. And in the dark room, and it was very harrowing. It's a very harrowing time in my life. But I always say, you know, you don't have to have vision to have vision. So in those dark rooms, my imagination was even bigger. You know, I dreamt bigger. And I came out of sort of the last surgery, and the cover I did was for W magazine with Rihanna as the queen with a golden eye. And now I look back at it the other day and I thought, oh my God, there are the eyes, subliminally. So yes, it was very challenging. And even to this day, you know, I go for checkups to make sure my eyes are okay. And they're great right now. And, you know, the more I look after myself, the better I will get.
So when you look at all your covers, and there's so many beautiful ones, is there one that's special to you?
What did I say to someone? They're like my children.
You always have a favorite child.
But I'm especially proud of the covers we did in lockdown, you know. When the world had essentially shut down, you know, the teams were sort of scattered all around London. And I had to go back to the days of ID when, you know, you had to really create, use your imagination. And we had a series of 4 covers. Judi Dench, when they said, you know, anybody over 60 should stay at home. The Essential Workers cover, a cover of landscapes, just so people could take a breather, and the Activists cover when George Floyd was murdered. And I really think we create covers that, you know, in years' time, people can look back and see what the time, that period was like. For me, an artist always has to reflect the times, as to paraphrase Nina Simone, and that's really important for me.
I mean, there was a bit of controversy with Linda Evangelista.
Yes. Yes, I mean, you know, there was the complaint that, oh, you know, she should have looked a certain way, you know. And for me, I've known Linda in the 90s. I've known this incredible icon who really defined what a model should be. And I also saw my friend go through really dark days, you know, due to the complications for surgery, literally disappear from the world, really not the Linda the world knew. So when we were doing this cover, it was a collaboration. She wanted to be that Linda that everybody knew. She wanted to feel good about herself again, and I wasn't going to deny her that. And also, you know, whatever I would like to say, whatever a woman wants to do with her body, it's up to her. So, you know, I'm very proud of Linda, and I'm very proud of that cover.
Edward, I mean, sometimes you're almost like an activist. Is that how you're like a fashion activist or a political
maybe I'm an activist
fashion?
soul, but I'm definitely a creative. But, you know, I've always believed, you know, look at my life story in my book, you know. I wasn't, like I keep saying, I wasn't supposed to be here. You know, had my dad not left, I don't know even what would have happened to my family. So even when we ended up in a room, 2 rooms in Vauxhall, 6 of us, we were so happy to be there, penniless, but so happy to be there. So, you know, every day, I just, you know, I'm an optimist. And I know it's not the most fashionable thing, but that's why I'm sitting here with you today, right?
Edward, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.